Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wemimo and I'm also known as Mama5, and today on my channel I'm going to be talking to you about life in Glasgow, life in Scotland in general as a Nigerian. Okay. um I put up a poll on my channel last week asking what you guys would like to see more on my channel, and the majority of the poll was that life in Glasgow and story time. So today I thought I would just share start it might be a series and it might just be a one-off, but you guys let me know in the comment section if you prefer live in Glasgow as a series, like I should bring it to you as it goes, or you just want everything in one video. I think it will be better in as a series rather than everything in one video, because as it is, I don't like it when the video is too long. So like I said, as you all know, I'm a mom of 5 and I reside in Glasgow, but I am in Scotland. So if I were to be going to London, all of these countries or all of these parts, they are all still in the United Kingdom. So don't think maybe, what kind of United Kingdom are you at? So I am in Scotland, and one of the popular town or cities in Scotland is Glasgow, which is where I reside. So in terms of life in Scotland, let's put it that way, or yeah, in Glasgow, I remember when I newly arrived in the UK, we arrived in Leicester, just in England. We were only there for like a year, and then we came all the way down to Scotland. So in total, I think I've been in Scotland for just roughly 15-14 years. That's how long I've been in Scotland, and I would say life in Scotland, life in our beautiful city Glasgow is great. Like, it's beautiful. There's this slogan about Glasgow that is, people make Glasgow, people make Scotland. That is, Glasgow is a city that welcomes everybody and all. Like, they don't discriminate on anybody. Meanwhile, we'll get to another section of that. So generally, Glasgow is known to be made by people. That is, people make Glasgow. So you might in Glasgow, lots of people will come. Like, in terms of, if you were to be in London and you've got immigration issues, people will come to Glasgow because they believe Scottish governments are much more a bit reserved as compared to like Westminster, where they just make everything bah, bah, bah. They just tie everything bah, bah, bah. Like, before you can get paper for London, you go try where. But if you're in Scotland, there's ways around getting settled quite easily. So as for me, I'm just going to come in the angle of me being a Glaswegian mom. So life in Scotland is relatively easy and cheap. Cheap, not for the lazy ones, but for those who put in the effort, for those who are open to opportunities, for people who are open to, like, reach. Like, when you sort for something, you acquire what you want. So let's start from housing. In terms of housing, there seems to be a lot of multi-story buildings and a bit more of mid-terraced flats or tenement flats, and then there's less of main door houses. Reason why I said so is that, like, I've got 5 kids and I'm in a 3-bedroom with 5 kids, which means that, at least according to the housing policy, I should be living in a 5 or 6 bedroom house. But housing in Scotland, they don't build a house or an accommodation that has 5 bedrooms, even 4 bedrooms that they are open, that would get they rarely build that, because I think Scottish people don't have lots of kids as we Africans do. So yeah, I'm in a 3-bed flat, and the cost of accommodation in Scotland is very, very cheap as well, which, if compared to England, I mean, I'm in a 3-bed flat now and I've gotten access to a lift. So monthly I pay £517. And one thing about Glasgow Housing Association is that they tend to increase their rent every 2 years or something. But still, 3-bedroom flat in Scotland for £517 is cheap as compared to if you were in London. Londoners, how much they pay for 3-bedroom flat for London? Drop it in the comment section. So that's number one. Housing is affordable in Scotland. And number two, when it comes to schools, there's availability of schools. Like schools are being apportioned, or schools places are being given to your kids based on your postcode. So if you live in a G30 and there's a school in G31, G32, that will be your catchment area. That will be the school your kids will go to. And if there's a school in G50 something and you think you want your kid to go to that school because maybe it's got high rating, high reviews by people, your kid will still be registered to go to that school, but you'll be advised that if a new family were to move into G50 something, that space will automatically go to that child because that will be that child's local catchment school area. So you that you are in G30 something, you will lose out because you are not making use of the G32 school in your catchment area. So school wise is great. So in terms of jobs, there's always a negative to everything, but in Scotland you can get a job if you prepare for it, if you know what you're looking for. Like if you see a job now and you're like, this job I want it, though it might be competitive, like there might be lots of competitions in terms of, okay, will they choose me, that obviously you are not a Glaswegian, as compared to at home, like somebody who was born and bred here. So, but one thing I always say is that if you see a job and you want it, just prepare yourself and go at it. So, getting a job is pretty much easy in Scotland in terms of care jobs, um, customer service jobs, retail jobs, building construction jobs. There's a lot of it. There's lots of bar jobs, catering jobs, there's a lot of it, and there's lots of healthcare jobs. So office-based jobs might be competitive, but like I said earlier on, if it's something you want and you've got the requirement for that job, go for it and go hit it hard. So there's jobs in Glasgow. And another thing I would like to mention is in Glasgow, in terms of transportation, transport is cheap in Glasgow. It's cheap, but in a way, I would say transportation in England is much better in England as compared to Glasgow in terms of cost. The reason being that children up until the age of 5 will travel free on on any public transport, but as soon as they start school or they are above the age of 5, they will start paying for their transport. But I believe in England, children travel free up until the age of 16 or something. If I'm wrong, please correct me or let me know in the comment section. So life in Glasgow, it's really good. I remember a few years after we moved into Glasgow, my husband is always like, he doesn't like the Scottish accent. He's no, we have to move out of Scotland. This, that. One thing is this: at times when I'm speaking, I don't even know if I've got an accent or not. But when people hear me talk, I remember when I was working in the supermarket, like they were like, "Oh, I can hear your Scottish accent," and then I will start talking and like, "Oh, I can see you're trying to stop yourself from." Because one thing is for me is that I don't even know if I'm speaking it or not. You might have heard a few of my phrases like "akani," that's some of the or my "we." If I say "we," or "we" means little, "kani" means cannot. So you might have heard me say a few of those cat phrases. It's because I love how it sounds, so I'll use them once in a while on my in my videos. So, and one thing is this: my kids, 4 of them were born in Scotland, in England. One was born in England, and 3 of them were born in Scotland. One thing is this: myself and my husband, we speak English most of the time, and we tend to switch to Yoruba once in a while. And then again, obviously, we have our Nigerian accent. So one thing I've observed with the kids is this: when they're at home, they will speak just like every other Nigerian kid will speak, like any Nigerian child who comes into Glasgow today. My kid will speak that way. But what I've observed is that once they are in school, in the midst of their friends, or in school generally, or outside of the house, bam, their Scottish accent will just be flying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll just be like, are those my kids talking? Like, it's as if when they're outside of the house, their Scottish accent just goes on like that. And once they are back home, they just switch back. I don't know how they do it, but for me, I love the Scottish accent. I would love to be able to speak more of it. So that's that in terms of Scottish accent. And there's another one which they call is it and people there are some schools as well that have that like Gaelic school. It's a kind of way I don't really know how that goes, but yeah, that's another aspect of school. So things again, life in Glasgow in terms of when it comes to socializing, Africans in Glasgow really don't socialize as much. Well, I'll take myself as an example. Other than going to church, or if someone you know has a party and then you get invited, and once parties like that happens, oh, we go over rock. We must overdo our rocking. Like we must go heavily dressed when parties happen in Glasgow, which is fun. So in terms of club, I mean, since I've been in Glasgow, I don't think I've ever been to a club. I don't think so. No, I've never been to a club like okay, it's Friday night. Let's go to a club. I've never been to a club since I've been in Scotland. I've never. But there are places like that which if you're a young person or you're a young couple with no kid, there are lots of places like that. And then Scotland, Glasgow, there's African food as well. What I found about African shops owned by Africans is that their owners are often rude. Nigerians, knowing that a Nigerian is coming to shop from them, they are often rude. But apart from their attitude, we still get like Nigerian food. We still get gari, we get fish, we get snails, we get dry fish, we get all this food. And then there's another Asian shop that caters for everything African Nigerian food as well. So yeah, it might not be as cheap as it is in London, but we still get it. And we might not get it as fresh as you get it in Dustin or as you get it in Peckham, but these things are there. So right, in terms of life generally in Scotland, Scotland is beautiful. Well, in terms of crimes, I mean, there's no city without its own crime, but I don't think crime rate in Scotland is a big deal, like normally as a family, like for me, if I'm not working night shifts, I'm in my house by 6 p.m., maximum 7 p.m., and I don't step out of the house to go anywhere. So if I'm in my house for 7 p.m., how will I be involved in anything out there? And crimes, I know crimes don't happen at night times. Crime could happen in the daytime. But then if you mind your business and you go about your own things and you'll be fine. And one thing that is a bit of an issue for me, not really an issue for me because I always stand up to it anyways, is the issue of racism. I believe racism is everywhere you go to, as long as you are not of the same as long as you're an ethnic person in any European or any country or any foreign country, you always experience racism. And the Scottish government, the police, the community, they are working really hard to make sure that they put this out, like they we get rid of racism. I have had my own fair share of racism, and trust me, I stood up to the racist and I put them in their shoes because I'm a human being. Red blood flows through my veins, just as in the veins of every Scottish people out there. And my kid, my oldest, Nifemi, she suffered racist attack when she was 8 years old. And I was mad, I was annoyed, which was why I said to myself, the fight my daughter couldn't fight for herself then when she was racially abused, if ever happens to me, I'll be facing it squarely, like squarely in the legal way and not in a violence or in a violent way. No. So racism is out there, but I believe people who are going to be racist towards you, they will have to look at you, like they will assess it from head to toe, and they will have to think, do I really want to try with this person? So there's always the issue of racism, but it's being dealt with. I mean, we have services that that make sure stuff like that gets dealt with as soon as possible. So life in Scotland is beautiful. Life in Scotland generally is amazing, though we may not get the best of weathers. I always say this, if you live in Scotland, we get 4 seasons in a day, which means you can be out of your house. The weather forecast might say it's going to be 26 degrees today. My sister, my brother, please take a jacket and an umbrella. Because for the fact that it says 27 degrees today, dry, sunny, it might be dry, but maybe a few hours later, it might be raining. After 10, it might stop. Maybe in an hour later, it might be snowing. Maybe after a couple of hours, it might be freezing cold. Maybe in the next second, hailstone. So we get 4 seasons in a day in Scotland. So it's just that Scotland is one of the coldest cities, and you know what, you just have to adjust to the weather. So I've not got any negative stuff to say about Scotland, to be honest, because it's been my home and it's going to be my home for the longest time. So if there's anything about Scotland or about Glasgow that you'd like more information about, feel free to send me an email. I'll leave my email in the description box there, or leave it in the comment section. And if there's anything in particular you really want me to pinpoint about life in Glasgow, you can always request that in the comment section, and I'll try my best to make sure I put that into consideration. And if you have enjoyed my wee intro or my wee talk about life in Glasgow as a Nigerian, why don't you like this video, leave me a comment in the comment section, click on the subscription button, and do not forget to turn on the post notification so you don't miss any post from me. And I hope to catch up with you in my next video. Bye.